Big thanks to Into the AM for helping support my channel. Use my coupon code RISTER or use my affiliate links for 10% off of any order. Once again, thanks to Into the AM for helping me bring this content to all of you. Last year, an order was established in the Smash Ultimate competitive scene. A dominance of 4 players, seemingly unbreakable, who won all of Smash's majors. It was reminiscent of the 5 Gods era of Melee, except here in Ultimate, they were known as the Four Horsemen. Rank number 1 in the world, Moshita Akala Hayato, the Japanese Steve prodigy who managed to dominate the world stage before even turning 18. The poster boy for the Steve army, Akola has continued a dominance unlike no other, and went nearly 5 months this year without dropping a single set. Rank number 2 in the world, Edgar Spargo Valdez, the Mexican cloud main carrying the prestigious legacy of talented Smash players from Mexico, following in the footsteps of players like MKLeo. Spargo is one of the only people in the world who can claim a true dominance over most of the other horsemen, having a phenomenal head-to-head record against almost all of them. Spargo has truly captured the hearts of audiences all across the world. Rank number 3 in the world, Carlos Sonics Perez. The highest ranked true solo main in the world, Sonics is a pioneer of his tag's namesake, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonics may not have the hypest clips, but you have to respect him. The amount of hours he spends labbing his game, practicing his advantage state to polished perfection, has allowed him to become Ultimate's most calm competitor, even in the face of stressful situations. And lastly, rank number 4 in the world, Mia. Real name unknown, I guess. Mia is the horseman who has the biggest potential to rise in the rankings, with some of the most consistent performances across all of Smash's top echelon. Mia has some of the highest attendance, regularly sweeping Japanese regionals and nationals, and that consistency has paid off, with a little bit of retroactive re-tiering, meaning that Mia has won around 6 majors in 2024 alone. Those are the Four Horsemen. Seen as Ultimate's version of the 5 Gods, these are the players to beat. But to be completely fair to everyone else, these players aren't invincible. Nearly all of them have dropped sets or had faults in their consistency. Mia lost to Gluttony at Umebura SP10 despite winning the runback in Losers Finals, and has losses to players like Matara and Shrix. Sonics lost to Icy Mist and DD at Super Smash Con. Spargo got 49th at that exact same tournament after losing to Lai and Aaron, and Akola, well, okay, Akola is kind of the exception. He kind of just doesn't lose at events that count for rankings to anyone who's not a horseman. But at locals though, Akola has dropped sets to people like Senra's Jigglypuff, Tamapi Daifuku's Bayonetta, and Furadadaman's Isabelle. Guess that's why he's number 1, huh? But despite the fact that these players aren't invincible, they're still a massive level above everyone else. There are some challengers to the title, sure. Europe loves to put their faith in Gluttony being able to take down the Horseman, and he's taken down 1 or 2. Light is the highest ranked player in North America and has a few Horseman wins. Hey, maybe his Kirby can defeat even more of them, right? And there are a few other notable names like Shattuck, DeBuzz, Tweak, Shuton, MKLeo, Riddles, players like that. But as good as they are, those players are still outsiders looking in. No. What if I told you that the real slayer of the Horsemen was none of them? The player who is stepping up to the plate and one by one dismantling the era of the Four Horsemen is not even a top 10 player on last year's rankings. This player is quickly proving himself as the new player to beat, and will single-handedly bring a new age of Smash upon us. This player is Taro Yamada, known in the Smash world as Hurt, the 5th Horseman. And today, we'll be going over his story, his humble beginnings in the world of competitive Smash, his massive breakout onto the world stage, and his dramatic revolution to end the era of the Horsemen. But before we can get to the mind-blowing, world-shattering upsets, we have to start at Hurt's humble beginnings. Taro Yamada was born on September 19th, 2003 in the Kyushu region of Japan. Now, if you didn't know, as small as Japan is as a country, even they still have regions that are stronger for Smash Bros than others, much like the United States does with its plentiful subregions. In Japan, there are 2 main regions considered the strongest for Smash Bros, Kanto and Kansai, which if you didn't know, is actually the region that both Akola and Mia are from. While Kyushu isn't a bad region for Smash at all, Hurt still elected to start off his competitive Smash career online, like most everyone in Japanese Smash does. Fun fact, a good majority of these Japanese Smash players won't even bother going to a tournament until they can reach a certain ranking on Smashmate, because I suppose they don't think they're good enough to compete or that it'll just be a waste. But either way, Hurt started to compete in online tournaments ran out of Smashmate, in contrast to NA where online tourneys are ran off of StartGG. Hurt basically only competed in the Tamisuma and Mayasuma series of tournaments, his first recorded online tournament being on March 10th, 2019, where Hurt placed 9th. As you can see, Hurt entered a ton of online tournaments from March of 2019 all the way to May of 2020. And while there are a lot of tournaments here, there's 3 that I'll specifically point out as notable. The first is Mayasuma 71, which happened on November 14th, 2019, and was the first recorded time that Hurt won a Smash tournament. I can't really discover much about this tournament since I don't speak Japanese, but we can at least tell that Hurt took the victory over players whose tags translate to things like hello, Biscode delivery, and Anigasaki Nene's boyfriend. Do take these translations with a grain of salt. Anyways, the second tournament I want to highlight is Voyage Qualifier 2, which took place on May 3rd of 2020. This was an online tournament that served as one of 4 qualifiers for a tournament named Voyage, with the top 8 of each qualifier competing in the final tournament. Sadly enough for our hero though, Hurt placed 9th at Voyage Qualifier 2, and then just didn't compete in any others, so he never got to compete in the Voyage tournament. The reason I point this tourney out though is for 2 reasons. One, it's the only tournament in this span of time that wasn't either a Tamisuma or a Mayasuma, and the second reason is that this tournament has character data. As we can see, Hurt got 9th place and, according to the recorded data, used solo Greninja. Wait, Greninja? That's not Snake. Well, that brings us to our third notable tournament from this string of Wi-Fi weeklies. That tournament was Tamisuma 132, which took place on April 28th of 2020. Yes, I know I'm going out of chronological order, just bear with me. This tournament is probably the most important for our purposes today, because it's the only tournament from Hurt's earliest days of competition that I was actually able to find VODs for. There are only 2 surviving VODs that have Hurt in them, which are 4 years old. In them, Hurt goes up against Hedo, the now best Bowser in the world, and Ken, the now best Sonic in Japan and second best Sonic worldwide. And lo and behold, in these VODs, Hurt is using solo Greninja. So even though the majority of these tournaments have neither VODs nor character data, it seems to me like Hurt actually started his competitive career as a solo Greninja main and didn't play Snake. But the most impressive part of these 2 VODs is that Hurt actually defeated Hedo 2-0, winning their set. Knowing how good Hedo probably is at this time, and especially knowing how good he becomes, this is a really good win. Afterward though, in finals, Hurt lost to Ken 3-0 in what many Greninjas consider to be their worst matchup. I do believe this bracket was single elimination, but that doesn't really matter. All that matters is that we can catch a glimpse of Hurt's skill, playing solo Greninja and still getting a good win over Hedo, even in his early days of competition. But now we have to do a time skip per se. Because you see, the COVID-19 lockdowns happened right around this time. Remember, Hurt's last tournament in the span of time was on May 20th, 2020. That's right around the time that the lockdowns started getting really serious, and everyone began to quarantine. And while here in North America, the lockdowns meant a serious rise in online play, this didn't seem to be the case for Hurt. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Japan's lockdowns looked like, but at the very least, Hurt decided not to compete in any more tournaments for the vast majority of the lockdown. And so, Hurt didn't compete for a long time. Until, that is, the lockdowns ended. Now we're post-time skip. The date is October 31st, 2021, and the lockdowns are lifting. The whole going outside again thing must have gotten Hurt in a pretty good mood about this whole in-person business, because Hurt decides to make a pretty big move for his competitive Smash career. Hurt decides to attend an offline tournament for the first time ever. The tournament is Fukuoka Smash Bros. Kagoshima, taking place in the city named, well, Kagoshima. That turned out to be a really nice coincidence for Hurt, because what do you know, that's his home city. And so, Hurt entered the tournament, and you know it was kinda scuffed, because for the first time in my channel's history, I'm referencing a bracket on Challenge instead of StartGG or Smashmate. Hurt started off the weekend doing fairly well, defeating Kent 2-1 and Tetsukuzu 2-0, next going up against a player named Hyde. Luckily for us, this set was actually put on stream, meaning we get to see Hurt's first ever offline bracket performance. But things seem to be different. The lockdowns have turned Hurt into a changed man, because he seems to be going through the one thing that every Smash player fears and dreads. A character crisis. Throughout his run at Fukuoka Smash Bros. Kagoshima, gosh that's a mouthful, Hurt used a ton of characters. If the tournament's wiki page is to be believed, it included Greninja, Wolf, Samus, and even Min Min. But what the wiki didn't report, or maybe just didn't have room to report, is another character. One that we get to see in this set against Hyde. Hurt used Snake. Now, Hurt would end up losing the set 2-0, dropping into losers. but this is the first time we've ever seen Hurt use the character that would eventually win him majors. For today though, Hurt made a small losers run, defeating Torano-san 2-0 and Kaidachi 2-1 before eventually losing to KB Tit 2-0, where Hurt again used several characters. Either way, Hurt's first offline tournament came to an end, with his final placement being 5th place out of 64 entrants. Not bad at all, but with that tournament behind us, Hurt got back to business, relatively speaking. He started to enter more Wi-Fi tournaments like he used to, entering Tamisuma 377, Mayasuma 333, and Tamisuma 411, in a length of time spanning from March 3rd to May 24th. Notably, Tamisuma 377 gave Hurt his second ever tournament victory, taking the win over the runner-up, whose tag translates to feet. I mean, obviously. But if we look a little further down the bracket, we actually see some pretty big names here, like Rido, Motsunabe, Harrison, Yara, Tamaigo, and Natsu. Those are some really good players that Hurt outperformed to place first. But now is about the time you're probably wondering something. I clearly censored a tournament a few screenshots ago. What the heck is that? Dear viewers, Hurt may not have known it, but this span of Wi-Fi weeklies was actually a turning point in Hurt's competitive career, because these 3 tournaments were the last open bracket Wi-Fi tourneys that Hurt would ever attend. After this point, Hurt would only enter 2 more online tournaments in total, both of which were invitationals. Those tournaments were Mayasuma Champions Series 25 and 26, both of which were 16-person invitationals and both of which resulted in Hurt getting a 5th place finish. Champions 25 had Mia win, with Toriguri as a runner-up. Toriguri, the best banjo in the world, is a player I also made a video about, which went over their entire competitive career, the second time I ever did so. The video you're watching right now is my 3rd time doing this format. Champions 26 had Hedo win, with Tsubaki as a runner-up. And what do you know? Tsubaki is a player I also made a video about, and was the first time I made a video in this format going over their entire competitive career. We've got a whole trinity going on here. In the only VOD of Hurt throughout both of these tournaments, we can see our hero using Snake yet again, this time for an entire set. It seems as if, during the time skip, our protagonist has shifted gears from being a solo Greninja main to being a Snake main. Although not technically solo, as Hurt still does pull out the Greninja from time to time, even up until today. And with that, we've covered the entirety of Hurt's early Smash days. While there was one offline tournament, this era of Hurt's career is his Wi-Fi era, where he grinded out the Tamisuma and Mayasuma series and eventually shifted from being a Greninja main to a Snake main post-time skip. Now it's time to get back to that censored tournament I hid from you earlier. What could I be hiding under there? Well, it's the tournament that I believe marks a shift in Hurt's career, where Hurt went from being a Wi-Fi grinder to genuinely striving to be a top player in Japan. It's the tournament that solidified Hurt's attendance at offline tournaments and effectively ended his Wi-Fi career, and opened the door for the Hurt that we know today. That tournament is Kagaribi 7. Kagaribi 7 went down on May 4th, 2022, and marked Hurt's second ever offline tournament. And after dipping his toes into the water already, Hurt figured he might as well go big or go home and attended his first major. Kagaribi 7 was, in a lot of ways, a landmark tournament. It was one of Akola's first ever major wins, back when he was still a rising talent. In fact, this tournament saw Akola and Ashimo, the 2 grand finalists, be invited to the Gimvitational because of this performance. Yeah, remember that? You should really look into the comments of this tournament's grand finals VOD for a good nostalgia trip. We really had no idea what Akola would become. But as this was all going on, a story was brewing in the background, and we had no idea what it would eventually evolve into. Our hero, Hurt, came into Kagaribi 7 as the 353rd seed out of 769 entrants. So, you know, in the top half, but definitely not seeded to perform very well. Hurt won 3 sets to make it out of pools, defeating Khan 2-0, as well as Sumai and Haruka in 2-1 set victories. However, once out of pools, Hurt had to go up against AIM, Japan's best Sheik main. And even though it went to a crucial Game 5, with Hurt trying both Snake and Greninja, AIM clutched out the set, sending Hurt down into losers. Once here, Hurt won just one more set against Teed 3-1 before losing to Sumo Suto 3-1, for a final placement of 97th as the 353rd seed. A really good performance considering his seed, but nowhere near the top. But this tournament changed Hurt. Maybe he became determined to become a top player. Maybe he got addicted to the rush of majors. Or maybe he just found that he really preferred offline competition. But for whatever reason, Hurt wouldn't attend any more online tournaments other than the 2 Mayasuma champions we covered earlier. Even more than that, Hurt would turn his attention toward the big tournaments, not going to locals and instead focusing his energy on practicing between larger regionals, super regionals, and majors. At this point in his career, Hurt was attending a lot of majors and larger tournaments, but mostly staying steady at a 65th placement range when it came to the big ones. Mostly, the thing that was increasing was his seeding, as TOs came to recognize him and knew to actually seed him in that range of placements. This span of tournaments included a second place finish at Fukuoka Smash Bros. Kagoshima 2, probably the smallest series of offline tournaments that Hurt attends, as well as a 65th place finish at both Kagaribi 8 and Mayasuma Top 11. Both decent placements for majors, but Hurt didn't really get any spectacular wins or upsets, mostly just placing his seed. More notably, Hurt also got 7th place at Kowloon 4, which wasn't a major, but Hurt did get his best offline win yet, by defeating Chonren the Pac-Man. But clearly this isn't the level of upset that Hurt needs to really get to that next level. Well, if it's big upsets you need, it's big upsets Hurt will deliver. April 8th, 2023, Kowloon 5, a major tournament. Hurt was coming into the tourney as the 32nd seed, and after winning 2 sets, lost 2-0 to Money Right, dropping into losers extremely early. And once here, Hurt went on a phenomenal losers run stacked with many top players. Hurt's best offline win before this was probably Chonren, but in the span of one losers run, Hurt got 3 or 4 victories that you could consider his new best offline win. Hurt defeated Akaneru and Marcos 2-0, Yaman Action 2-1, as well as Subo Subo and lastly Tadakotori, both 2-0. The Yaman Action win is definitely Hurt's best win offline so far, and maybe even including online results up to this point. However, Hurt sadly lost to Shuton next in a shockingly close Game 5 set. Shuton had actually been upset early and was in the midst of a 9-set losers run to win the tournament, and Hurt took him to Game 5, so you know. But Hurt eventually placed 13th as the 32nd seed out of 471, Hurt's best tournament placement by far. And Hurt kept this momentum going, except for a slightly disappointing 33rd place finish at Delta 4, but hey, he tied with DeBuzz at that tournament, which you can now probably tell was a doozy. Delta 4 was also a super major in the middle of Golden Week, and it was now time for the third and final tourney of 2023's Golden Week, Kagaribi 10. You may remember this tournament from my video on it a while back, as one of the biggest and most important tournaments of the entire year. And just think, when we all watched, or made, that video, we had no idea that a hero was being created just under our very noses. But perhaps Hurt wasn't as under our noses as he previously was. And I actually consider Kagaribi 10 to be Hurt's massive breakout tournament. Both in terms of a performance, sure, but more importantly, Kagaribi 10 was the tournament where everyone overseas finally learned about Hurt's existence, and he was put on the world's radar. Why is that? Well, dear viewers, because this run was insane. Hurt came into Kagaribi 10 as the 133rd seed. I mean, remember, this was at the time the most important tournament for Ultimate maybe ever. 1,024 entrants. So yeah, pretty stacked. But this tournament didn't start very well for Hurt, as after winning a few sets and pools, Hurt lost 2-1 to Yez the Ike main, dropping into losers bracket extremely early. This was pools of an over 1,000 entrant tournament, so yeah, big losers run incoming. Hurt began said losers run by defeating Himawari, top Japanese Rob Sasusoro, top online Minmin Oi George, and Lai, the Korin who beat Spargo at SmashCon. After this, Hurt kept going, defeating top Ices Futari no Kiwami A, another top Rob Yoko Sharp, best Ken in Japan Takera, and lastly Japan's second best Sonic, Taikei, who had upset DeBuzz earlier in bracket. Speak of the devil though, Hurt's next set would be against DeBuzz. And sadly enough, Hurt lost this set in a Game 5, being eliminated at 13th place as the 133rd seed. That's an insane placement, but let's ignore that for just a moment. Because while the 9-set losers run certainly did the majority of the work for Hurt's new overseas recognition, DeBuzz himself also played a massive part. If you don't remember, DeBuzz ended up getting 4th place after his own 9-set losers run. And right before DeBuzz beat Hurt, he also beat Dio. Plus, Kagaribi 12 was Shogun's last ever tournament, meaning that all 3 snakes were very ripe for comparison. DeBuzz made a video after he returned home talking about his experience in Japan, and in it talked about his set with Hurt. DeBuzz had played Hurt and Dio back to back, and with Shogun now retired, DeBuzz actually said that Hurt was the best snake player in Japan, as he said that their set was much harder than his set against Dio had been. So yes, Hurt's run was insane and was the primary reason everyone overseas started to notice him. But I also think a good portion of this overseas attention was because of DeBuzz's shining endorsement in this video to his entire fan base, who may not have heard of him otherwise. And so, Hurt's time at Kagaribi 10 ended. Before this tournament, Hurt was a rising star for sure, but mostly unknown on the world stage, just being known by the Japanese scene as a hidden boss. But now, everyone knew who Hurt was, and thanks to DeBuzz, everyone knew him as the best snake in Japan. What could be better than that? The best snake in the world, that's what. And with that, we have really got to get going through these tournaments. We've already been talking for so long, and we haven't even gone over any of the Four Horsemen. I thought Hurt was the one to end their reign of dominance, and we haven't even gotten to that yet. So let's go through this next span of time relatively quickly, so we can get to the next big tournament for Hurt. After Kagaribi 10, Hurt participated in Mayasuma Champions Series 26, his last ever online tournament. Afterward, Hurt picked up victories at smaller regionals Midobara SP3 and Kowloon 6. Next, Hurt placed 3rd at Tamasuma Kyokan 3, the tournament that prompted me to make my Tsubaki video. Hurt also won Mayasuma Top 13.5 U22 and got 4th at Kowloon 7. But notably in this segment, there's also Ace High. You see, many people believe that Hurt's first tournament outside of Japan was Port Priority 8, but that's actually not true. It was Ace High, which I made a video about, as it was Indonesia's first ever large tournament. Hurt ended up winning the tournament over Neo, taking the gold at his first ever non-Japanese event. But now it's time for us to get into the last part of Hurt's story. Hurt has now truly leveled up into a top Japanese player, now known the world over. But Hurt isn't stopping at being a top Japan player or best Japan snake. No, his sights are set higher, on being one of the greatest in the world. And to do that, there are 4 players who he has to beat. The 4 Horsemen of Smash Ultimate. The date is September 23rd, 2023, and the tournament is Delta 5. It's a super major, drawing in 292 entrants. At this point, since Kagaribi 10, Hurt has somewhat faded out of the minds of overseas viewers. Not Japan, mind you, since he was still winning over there, but in North America especially, people had somewhat forgotten about him in favor of Apollo Kage, claiming that AK was the best snake in the world. Well, that certainly wouldn't do. Entering Delta 5 as the 10th seed, Hurt started off by getting through the first few phases of bracket, getting good wins on Uwame and Toriguri on the way. However, at this point, Hurt ended up losing to Kameme, dropping into loser's bracket and first defeating Reno 3-1. Hurt was now in loser's bracket relatively early, and had to go on a loser's run. But Hurt powered through the loser's bracket, defeating, get this, Leaf 3-0, Shuton 3-1, Nietono 3-0, Ken 3-1, and Yara 3-1. That's a laundry list of some of Japan's greatest players. But ironically enough, the fact that this run was almost entirely from loser's bracket meant that most people, keeping track of winner's side, didn't even see Hurt coming. It's what gave the impression that most NA viewers had of this tournament, that Hurt came out of seemingly thin air to get some of the best wins of his career. But they only think that because they weren't paying attention to loser's bracket, and thus, Hurt was able to sneak right up to them. After the win over Yara in loser's semifinals, Hurt was sitting comfortably in loser's finals, guaranteed top 3, his highest ever placing at a tournament of this scale. Up in winners, Akola defeated Mia in a very close set, casting Mia down into loser's finals to face off against Hurt. This is the first time that Hurt has faced off against one of the 4 Horsemen offline. Everyone expected Mia to sweep Hurt here and go back up to face his fellow Horseman. Not to mention, this matchup is horrible for Snake, one of his worst, given the fact that Game & Watch can absorb nearly every explosion with Bucket, and even a bucket filled with just grenades has the potential to take stocks dramatically early. So everyone figured this set was a done deal. But in 5 games that stunned the world, Hurt beat Mia in a Game 5 set. Mia, one of the Horsemen, playing a +2 matchup, was eliminated at 3rd place. Hurt moved on into grand finals from loser's side, and in the first set of grands, beat Akola 3-1. It's hard to understate the impact of this win. I created a short on it when it happened, and it got the world watching and talking about Hurt. You gotta remember, in the time leading up to this tournament, Akola had basically never dropped a set to anyone not named Spargo. Mia hadn't gotten to the point where he could defeat Akola yet, and Akola and Sonics had not fought yet. To everyone watching, Akola was basically invincible. But Hurt proved that Akola wasn't this invincible god playing an unbeatable character, he was just a mortal man. The god of Smash finally spilt a drop of blood. But all of that was just for a single drop, and even though Hurt fought valiantly in the reset, Game 5 Akola clutched it out, winning Delta 5 and eliminating Hurt at 2nd place as the 10th seed. But the dam was broken at this point. As ridiculous as it sounds these days, this was the first time that people realized that it was even possible to beat Akola. And the one to do it had been this Snake main that, for a lot of people, came out of literally nowhere. Hurt had now eliminated Mia from bracket, and had taken a set off of Akola. But even though Hurt beat Akola, he didn't eliminate him from the tournament. For now, the score sat at 1 Horseman down, 3 to go. Hurt had made his first ever major top 8 at Delta 5. So how about another? At Kagaribi 11, Hurt ended up getting top 8, placing 7th as the 9th seed. He didn't have a run nearly as flashy as Delta 5, but getting great wins over Ryuo, Level 1, Flo, Yara, and Shuton, before losing a Game 5 to Zachary. This top 8 finish cemented Hurt as a player who was here to stay, not just fade away after one breakout. This 7th place was followed up by a 2nd place at Taisute 2, losing to Proto Banham. Not so fun fact, that tournament was actually the last ever tournament that Proto Banham would enter, before he announced his indefinite hiatus from competitive Smash just 3 weeks ago. And yes, I am extremely sad about it, don't talk to me. But anyways, Hurt's competitive career would go to a whole new frontier. Hurt packed up his bags and for the first time, went to North America in order to participate in Port Priority 8. Port 8 was a massive tournament for Smash Bros, with Sonics winning his first Super Major, Spargo underperforming, Kananabe's Breakout, Umeki beating Mudace. It was an insane tournament. But despite all of that, for Hurt, Port Priority 8 was fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hurt did good. He placed his seed of 9th and got good wins over Lima, Beast Mode Paul, and T, but he didn't get to fight any of the Horsemen, and didn't make top 8. So there's surprisingly not much to talk about with this win. The same thing goes for Hurt's next major, Kowloon 9 with Sumobato, the tourney most famous for being Raru's big breakouts. Hurt got 4th as the number 6 seed and got wins over Kananabe, Zamba, Gact, and Doramigi. But the most notable thing about this run was Hurt losing to Omawatsu in a Game 5. The truth of the matter is that Hurt is no longer the player on the come-up, now he's the player to beat. He was the best Snake main in the world and undisputed top 10 in Japan. But in order to get to that next level, he needed another shot at the Four Horsemen. In this span of time between Port Priority 8 and Battle of BC 6, Hurt was basically just winning regionals and placing top 4 at every major he attended. But this is actually important, because this shows consistency, the hardest part of being any competitor for any game. But did you catch what I just said? I said Battle of BC 6. Oh yeah, dear viewers, it's time. Hurt went overseas again, this time to Canada for Battle of BC 6. A massive tournament that was shaping up to be one of the most important for this ranking season. And things started well, with Hurt getting 3rd place at the pre-local behind only Yoshidora and Riddles. And as main bracket got underway on March 29th, 2024, Hurt began to march ever forward towards destiny. Starting off in pools, Hurt defeated Ray and Space 3-0 before getting wins over RM8, Mr. R, and Syrup, all in 3-1 victories, to make it into winners quarterfinals. Once here, Hurt had to go up against another Japanese prodigy on a massive run of his own, our dear old friend, Toriguri. But this was no time to get sentimental. Top 8 was waiting, and only one player could win this set. After 5 tense games, that winner would be Hurt, who advanced into winners semis to face, you guessed it, another Japanese prodigy, who I am a big fan of, Doramigi. This set was a lot less close though, as Hurt swept the Min 3-0 to make it into winners finals. Once here, Hurt would finally get another shot against one of the Four Horsemen, Mexico's very own Spargo. After having crossed Mia off of his hit list, Hurt knew that Spargo was next. And not only did Hurt beat Spargo, he wrecked him, winning 3-0 in a dominant victory. And even though Spargo came back up into Grands, the second set wouldn't go much better, with Hurt winning 3-1 to become your champion of Battle of BC 6 as the 4th seed. This win was huge for Hurt. It was Hurt's first ever major win, and a big one at that. Also, it was Snake's first ever major win across any Smash game, even Ultimate, as the only other Snake main to win a major in Ultimate didn't do so with solo Snake, using Mario in at least one game. And with that, Hurt crossed Spargo off of his hit list. 2 down, 2 to go. And Hurt's next opportunity would present itself fairly quickly, as 2024's Golden Week was here, meaning 2 majors in Japan happening back to back. Oh, but right before that, how about we go get 3rd at another major, Mayasuma Grand Wars, real quick. You cool with that, Hurt? Yeah, he's cool with that. Now, where were we? Right, the dual super majors. The first of these 2 majors, Delta 8, was admittedly a bit of an underperformance for Hurt. He lost to Shuton in winners quarters and then lost to Level 1 right after, placing 9th as the 3rd seed. I mean, to be fair, Level 1 had just beat Spargo right before that, so clearly Level 1 was just on an unstoppable run at this tournament. You know, it happens to everyone. Our main focus here is Kagaribi 12, the 2nd super major that drew in 2,030 entrants, and which Hurt was entering as the 5th seed. Hurt's competitive journey in offline Smash had started with Kagaribi 7, and now, the climax was here at Kagaribi 12. Hurt started off the weekend by sweeping pools flawlessly to make top 192. Once there, Hurt defeated 33 Perrenbachs 3-0, as well as Shia, T, and Zachary, all in 3-1 set victories, to make it into winner's side top 8. Once here, Hurt now had another chance at one of the Four Horsemen, Akola. Hurt had beaten Akola before, but he hadn't eliminated him. In winner's semis, Hurt defeated Akola in 5 games, beating Akola again to prove that the first win wasn't a fluke. And with that, Hurt moved into winner's finals. Now once here, Hurt would sadly lose to Mia 3-1, dropping into loser's finals. And who else would make it here as well but Akola? Now in their third set, Hurt and Akola would again bring it to a Game 5. And if you didn't know, Game 5 Akola is far more potent and real than Game 4 Leo ever was. But Hurt? Hurt would go to the next level. Not only did Hurt beat Game 5 Akola, he 3-stocked him, knocking Akola out of the tournament at 3rd place and moving back up into Grand Finals against Mia. Now, Hurt fought valiantly against Mia, but in Game 5 of Grands, Mia hit a 6 into a 9 and killed Hurt at basically 0, carrying that momentum to win Game 5 and Kagaribi 12, eliminating Hurt at 2nd place as the 5th seed. If Mia doesn't hit that 9, we probably get a reset, and from there, who knows. But for now, Hurt did what he had to do. Mia eliminated at Delta 5. Spargo eliminated at Battle of BC 6. And now Akola eliminated at Kagaribi 12. 3 down, 1 to go. But dear viewers, that's where our story for today is actually going to end. After Kagaribi 12, Hurt went on to win Kowloon 11, which I won't bother going over. Since it wasn't a major, he didn't fight any horsemen, and I literally covered it 2 days ago. Just go watch that video. However, as for Hurt, there is only one horseman remaining, Sonics, who Hurt has never fought before. Hurt won't be at Gamal X, so they won't be fighting this weekend. But trust me, dear viewers, it is only a matter of time before Hurt goes up against Sonics, the last horseman standing. And when they do fight, if Hurt wins, he will be the first player to beat all 4 horsemen since the beginning of their era of dominance. Hurt is the one player with the most potential to bring an end to this era of Smash and bring about a new age. All that's left is to beat Sonics. So, if Sonics ever hears this, good luck, because you're gonna need it when you face off against Hurt, the Horseman Slayer. That really doesn't sound as good as Leffen being the God Slayer, does it? Oh well, what are you gonna do, right? I didn't pick the name. That's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shout out to my patrons at Laster, Fosco223, Logan S, Pressapalm, Wawa, Mr. Sinister, Happy Feet, Oshman, Mistybot, and my 2 patrons Iltis, Diamond Blaze, and Ben L. Additionally, shout out my YouTube members DJ Jr., Defective, Boston R, Gronsis B, Kirby Fan, Nexus, Loco Soko, and my 2 members Mike G, Wu-Tang Forever, and Stormtrooper. Also, shout out my gifted tier 2 members with their usernames Ruby Master, Kuruko, LWB74, and Enchanted IBE. Lastly, extra special thanks to my tier 3 supporters, Fat Blizzard, who says Big D will make it out of a slump, Avadoon, who says Mr. Rice is the go-to Smash content, Iltis, who says Shadik is top 3, and Grant I Am, who hasn't given me their message yet. If you want to support me using any of these methods, links are in the description down below. Don't forget to use my coupon code RISTER and I get 10% off of any order from Into the AM. And lastly, I want to give one last sincere thanks to Let Me Fly for their continued support of my channel. Link to their Twitter page is in the description down below. Don't miss tomorrow's upload, but until then, I've been Mr. Mice, and thank you all so very much for watching.